We're on the grounds of Al-Aqsa. It's one of the holiest places in the Islamic religion. And so we've come here today on one of the holiest nights of Ramadan. The crowds are huge. So if anything happens, it could potentially be very dangerous for the people that are here.
It's nighttime prayers for Palestinian Muslims, and this year, Israeli forces showed up unannounced.
So you can see that there is Israeli police actually inside, in the grounds of Al-Aqsa. That's what triggered the protests, and that's what triggered the anger today.
Palestinians feel like they're being pushed out of East Jerusalem, the city they see as the capital of a future Palestinian state. They say Israel is upping its efforts to redraw the borders of the city, but Israel claims it belongs to them, despite the United Nations saying it's an occupation, illegal under international law.
The Israeli police have been arresting loads of Palestinian children. Palestinians are retaliating because so many young men have been taken away by police.
عالم معلهاش جايه توصل باب الله ترشوهم خروا مسكوا سخكوا كلكوا سووا اللي بدكم اياه تعصيمه بلا خايا يا زلمه
قديش عمرك؟ قديش عمرك؟ قديش عمرك؟ 15 سنه ايش سويت؟ ليش اخذوك؟ ليش تتفكرون اخذوه؟ ليش؟ على مود شنو؟
بدهم يبعدوا الشباب، بدهم يبعدوا كل الشباب واحد واحد.
As Ramadan continued, Palestinians in East Jerusalem faced stun grenades, arrests, and water cannons. Some of the worst violence seen in years.
هدول رشوا علينا مي طالعين فيش شيء فينا ولا شيء كلاب حيوانات شو بدك تكفيه
عادي ولا شيء عادي حبيبي عادي
عايش بس هذا ما تنساش اوعك تنسى هذا ايش نسوي.
East Jerusalem is important to Jews, Muslims, and Christians. It's also the site of the sacred Jewish Temple Mount. But most of the people who live in this part of the city are Palestinians. That's been slowly changing since Israel captured the area in 1967 and started moving in settlers. Jewish people now make up around 40% of the population. And in 2018, Israel was emboldened by President Trump, who moved the US embassy into East Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. It outraged Palestinians, but was celebrated by right-wing Israelis.
It is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
At the heart of the fight over East Jerusalem is the neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah, home mostly to Palestinian families, some who came here in 1956 after being displaced by Israel when the state was created 8 years earlier. Israel claims Jews historically owned this land. Now, there's a lawsuit to forcibly evict some Palestinian residents, making its way through the courts. Protesters have been turning up since the issue reached the Supreme Court this year.
بسنة 67 أول بيت استولت عليه الجماعات الصهيونية بعد الحرب ب5 أشهر بشهر 11 67 استولوا على أول بيت بالحي وهو بيت عائلة الشنطي.
Mona al-Kurd and her relatives are one of 28 families fighting in court to keep their homes.
صدقوني ما حد من أهل الحارة رح يطلع إلا لآخر لحظة يجوا يشحطونا شحن نعيش بيتنا أرضنا.
Other Palestinians have already been replaced by right-wing Israeli settlers.
Hey! Hey! جيبوا إيش؟ رجاء بدناش.
ايش صار هسه؟ ايش صار؟
كانوا واقفين شباب وصبايا فلسطينيين وهجم عليهم نزلهم بالعصاي. شوف العصاي اللي بإيده. سرقين هدول سرقين حرامية. أنا وياهم بنفس البيت.
هم ببيتك؟
هم ببيتي. تعي شوفي. هذا البيت اللي أخذته ستي لأنها لاجئة تهجرت بال48 من حيفا. هذا البيت
هذه
بابا بناه بسنة 2000 لأنه تزوج وجابنا فصار بده مساحة أكبر بس بابا أنهى بناء البيت وعمرنا ما سكناه. أجا القاضي سكر باب البيت ورجع على المحكمة وأمر إنه البيت يضله مسكر بحجة إنه مبني بدون ترخيص.
منو يعيش بيها؟
مستوطن، شباب مش عيلة.
انتوا تعيشون هنا
وهم هون
وهم يعيشون
بالضبط
هنا.
بابا وماما كانوا يشتغلوا، حوشوا مصاري وبنوا هذا البيت.
اوكي.
كله من تعبنا وشقانا. وبعدين أصدرت محكمة الاحتلال قرار بإنه يجوز للمستوطنين السكن في المنزل. طب ما هذا البيت بدون ترخيص صح، وعليه أمرين هدم. طب هو بدون ترخيص، على أي أساس بتسكنوا مستوطن إسرائيلي فيه وبتمنعوني أنا كفلسطينية أسكن فيه؟ على أي أساس؟ أني ديمقراطية هاي؟
ايش تشعرين لما تشوفي؟
قهر، انزعاج، يعني مزعج، متعب. أنا ما ببكي لأني ضعيفة أبداً، صدقيني والله، بس ببكي لأنه نتعاملش مع دولة عادلة، احتلال، وهذه أرضنا. أنا انخلقت، ربيت، وعيت، كبرت هون، على أساس في يجي حدا ياخدها؟ كيف؟ بأي منطق؟ اللي عم بيصير مناهض للقوانين الدولية. تهجير القسري جريمة حرب.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Thank God, still alive.
Yeah. You're a difficult man to get hold of.
Yeah, generally don't interview, but given the circumstances and the bad press that's out there, we decided that we need to do some damage control.
Jacob Fauci is an American Israeli. He became infamous after Mona confronted him and the video went viral.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, يا عمي.
He's been living in an additional part of Mona's house for over 10 years after being recruited by a US-based company called Nahalat Shimon International, which owns the property under Israeli law.
How did you end up here?
It's a long story. Basically, I needed to move from where I was, and my friend was very, very active in this neighborhood. And he said, you can stay here for the time being.
Do you pay rent?
I have an arrangement with the owners of the house. I don't want to get into personal arrangements and rents and things, but yes, I'm a tenant here. I have no ownership over this property.
You're from Brooklyn?
No, I'm from New York, from Long Island.
From New York. What right do you have to live here?
The right I have is that the owner of the house wants me to live here, and he wants there to be Jews living in this house, and he wants to. And I got chosen for whatever reason. It ended up being me.
So why do you live here?
Because I live here, because it's important, and because not too many people want to live here, and it's important to strengthen this neighborhood, to make sure that this neighborhood is not lost in any future peace deal. This is not their ancestral lands. They've not been here for generations. They came here in 1956 because they had nowhere else to be, and somebody illegally put them here. Whatever they're accusing me of is no different from what they're doing and what they did.
So your position here is a political position to keep Palestinians out of it?
Not to keep Palestinians out of it, to keep Jews in it.
And therefore keep the Palestinians who were here out of it?
No, that's not, no. That's a necessary evil. Whatever situation is, and that's what I was trying to explain in that viral video, they're not coming back here. This part of the house for sure is lost. The second part of the house, unless there's some major miracle, is going to be lost. And they're not coming back into here. So whether I am here, whether I am not here, whether it's me, whether it's someone else, whether it's a monkey, whether it's a giraffe, they're not coming back into this house ever. I understand why they're angry at me. I understand why they dislike me. But I did not do this to them. I'm not doing this to them. And as I said, if I leave, I will be replaced immediately. And I venture to think that whoever comes here is not going to be as easygoing as I am.
Jacob's and Nahalat Shimon International's unyielding stance is being challenged both inside the neighborhood and in court, where lawyers representing the families argue it's illegal under international law to displace anyone from occupied land. They're also arguing that there's a double standard. Israel allows Jews to return to their homeland, but not Palestinians.
قامت لشام تمفرالي. I don't want to cause a problem. تمفرالي لشام تبريتي بعبريت. لشام. I want to ask you why you've taken the man.
Nahalat Shimon International did not respond to our request for comment. Across the street from Munna's home is a house that belonged to a family pushed out in the last round of evictions. We found Abu Ayman al-Ghawi alone, sitting outside his old house.
So you used to live in this house across the road. What happened?
رمونا بين ساعة والتانية للشارع، كسروا الابواب، ضربونا احنا واولادنا ونسواننا، حملونا بالقوة ورمونا برا.
Were you given any help, any money, a place to stay? What sort of support did you get?
يعني هم ما قدموا أي مساعدة، لا بيت لا إيجار. يعني تصوري احنا قعدنا هون تحت هذه الشجرة مقابل بيتنا 7 أشهر.
What happened to all your belongings that were in the house?
أخذوا كل العفش ورموه، احنا بنعرفش وين راح العفش. بقول لك ما طلعنا إلا بالأواعي اللي علينا، بالملابس اللي علينا بس. كنت أنا لابس أواعي النوم. مرتي طلعت بدون بابوج، بدون شحاطة.
How long exactly have you lived in this house?
في سنة 1962 أنا انولدت هون. القدس هذه حقنا إحنا، مش حق المستوطن. المستوطن اللي أجا من أمريكا ولا من روسيا ولا من ألمانيا هو مش أحق مني إنه يعيش هوني. أنا انولدت هون، دمي دموعي في هذا البيت.
Arya King, a right-wing activist who was appointed one of East Jerusalem's deputy mayors last year, says the right belongs to the Jewish people.
When we are Jews in the States, in Australia, in England, in Jerusalem, we are facing to one place. Haram al-Sharif, Temple Mount.
That's religion.
Of course.
Talking about a religion when you're talking about people and the land and where they live, is it irrelevant?
Absolutely.
So you can't really justify ownership over religion when there are so many different types of Arabs?
Of course not, but I'm just explaining that the way that we see Yerushalayim, it's different way than any other religion. As a Jew, you can live everywhere in the world. You can be the most Orthodox Jew. If you don't live in Yerushalayim, you cannot keep the entire commitment of God.
Do you want to see a Sheikh Jarrah that is Jewish?
Of course.
Without Arabs?
I want to see Jews, yes.
As the neighborhood waits on the eviction appeal, support for the families is growing. Police are getting more aggressive.
As it's getting closer, the smell is getting really, really strong. You can see everybody just ran inside because they don't want to be sprayed with that. It smells like sewage.
Yes, they sprayed in here too, right?
One night, police even raided a Palestinian resident's house for playing loud music. On another night, police detained Munna's younger brother and held him for hours when he was trying to go home.
وهسه تعرفون هو وين؟
احنا ما بنعرف بس رايحين نشوف اذا هو بمركز الشرطه الرئيسي يعني. انت اللي اعتقلت اخوي، الله يبارك لك ويكسر ايديك يا حيوان يا ابن الكلب.
As Ramadan neared its end, Palestinians flocked to Al-Aqsa Mosque, and Israeli police once again stormed in. Hundreds of people were injured, but many medics were prevented from entering.
We've been outside for a while, they wouldn't let us in. We've now made it into the ground. There are the remnants of stun grenades everywhere. East Jerusalem is at the heart of the Palestine-Israel conflict, and right now, it's exploded. Palestinians are taking refuge inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
While Palestinians barricaded themselves in the mosque, close by, right-wing Israelis, including Arya King, celebrated the date Israel captured Jerusalem in 1967.
A lot is happening right now. Al-Aqsa, what you call Jerusalem Day, Sheikh Jarrah. Do you think that this is a very delicate moment?
It's a delicate moment like many other moments we have here. And we passed many moments like that, and we will pass this also.
What do you want to see in the end? What would make you happy?
To see the temple built at the Temple Mount, where the Dome of the Rock is the holy of holiness. We believe and we trust God and we believe God, that it will happen. And we need to do everything that it will happen in our days.
In retaliation for the storming of Al-Aqsa, Hamas, a Palestinian militant group that governs Gaza, fired on Israel. At least 13 civilians have been killed, including 2 children. Israel responded with a disproportionate show of force, levelling apartment buildings and newsrooms in one of the most densely populated places on earth. To escape is impossible. Israel has closed off the crossing into the blockaded strip. So far, over 200 Palestinians have been killed, including 61 children. When the bombing stops and the international community is no longer watching, Munna will still be fighting, including at Israel's Supreme Court.
The residents of Sheikh Jarrah say court cases like this happen on a monthly basis, but they still say despite the amount of times they've been here, they have no faith in the justice system.
بنقول إنه هاي الأرض إلنا وإحنا بنقول إنه هاي الأرض مش إلهم.
In the coming weeks, the courts will make a decision on the cases of 28 families appealing eviction. If they lose, they'll be left homeless.
When you're sat inside there as a Palestinian in an Israeli court, do you feel the same as them? Do you feel equal to them?
حسيت إنه يعني أقل حقوق من حقوقي إني أعرف ترجمة بالعربي ما كان فيه. أول على آخر بقول إنه إحنا بنتعامل مع نظام استيطاني ما بده إحنا كفلسطينيين مقدسيين نضلنا موجودين في أرضنا. بدهم يعملوا القدس الموحدة، بدهم يجلوا ويشيلوا ويمحوا يعملوا تطهير عرقي لكل الفلسطينيين الموجودين في القدس. ما رح نخلي، يعني ما رح نحمل حالنا ونطلع نقول لهم تفضلوا هذه بيوتنا، مستحيل. أنا قلت دائما بقول أنا رح أربط حالي بجنازير وأضلني قاعدة ببيتي، مش مستحيل أطلع يجوا يسحبوني سحب.